Berries.
What's that?
Calling it Berries.
Which street is it? West
Yeah, it's over by Courtney's house.
I don't know.
Subdivision where Courtney lives.
Rolling Hills.
Rolling Hills.
But I don't know. Yeah. I've driven by it a couple times. I'm like,
that's right. Oh, that's. One minute.
Well, maybe 30 seconds. Huh?
All right. Call the meeting to order. Nina, please take the roll.
Councilman Bundy?
Present.
Councilman Brennan?
Present.
Councilman McCain?
Present.
Councilman Stokes?
Present.
Mayor Sykes?
Present. Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum for June 8th meeting at 6 p.m. Run down to item number 2 on the agenda, recognizing persons in the audience and limit each. Would anybody that's not here to speak for something, does anybody want to get for 3 minutes? All righty, we'll run down to item number 3, Republic Service Update with Rochelle Klein.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Rochelle Klein with Republic Services, and I've been with Republic Services for 15 years. I'm the contract manager there, and Conrad McDaniel right here is with us as well. And so you've been with us now, what, like 13 years maybe?
11.
11. Yeah. So a long time. And so anyway, we have been your partners for 19 and a half years. So a long time we've been coming out here. Used to be Mountain Home Disposal for all of you who remember back to Mountain Home Disposal days. And Chad can't be here tonight. He's off. But he's been your supervisor here for at least probably 15 of those years. Chad's been out here. And anyway, so just by way of history, people don't think too much about trash. Nina gets a monthly report from us and probably thinks, more trash information. But just to give you an idea, overall, you guys throw away just under 200 pounds per household per month and recycle just under 20 pounds per household per month. And with that, you guys probably know, but with the agreement with Idaho Waste Services, the host agreement, your disposal is free. So you're in a good spot there that you pay for service, but disposal for you guys in Mountain Home is included as part of that host agreement. So that's pretty nice. And just as a recap of who we are, we're the safest large refuse. There are lots of small haulers in the country, but we're the largest residential hauler, and then the second largest behind Waste Management as far as size nationwide. And we have the strongest environmental record, and we're the safest company by OSHA incidents. So when you measure just OSHA recordable incidents, we're the safest large company. Things that make us really excited are things like new trucks. So you guys have 2 trucks in the last year. We brought one by City Hall. Things that really light up our lives. So we get excited when you get a new trash truck. So it's like a new fire truck, right? So it's a big deal. So anyway, we have 2 new trash trucks in Mountain Home. Last week we had one of our trucks, I don't know if you heard, but it blew a tire on the scale at the transfer station. So everyone there hit the ground. They didn't know what was going on. It was just an inside one of our dual tires, but it scared everybody. So if you heard about it, we felt really bad about that. Anyway, things like that. But anyway, and on the recycling front, you guys probably know recycling's been upside down for the last like 2.5 years, and it's still between $4,000 and $5,000 a month to keep recycling, or $3,000 to $4,000 a month to keep recycling. But we still feel like that's really the right thing to do. So we think we're going to come out on the backside of this, and we figured probably 5 years between the time the Chinese market shut down and U.S. markets emerge, and we're starting to see all kinds of really interesting stuff come forward. So hopefully we'll figure out some solutions there. And then just as far as our partnership, community involvement, we're longtime chamber members. We, are MAC members. I don't know if you guys are all MAC members too, probably, but we're MAC members. We support things like the golf tournament and, the beer festival, and which actually is really fun. But anyway, we're just really committed to the Parks Department too. We sponsor. Conrad proudly wears his Little Man Wrestling T-shirt. We usually just ask Parks what kind of support they need, which teams don't have sponsors, and we pick those up. So it tends to be more on the Little Man Wrestling side. And softball and soccer are also sports that we've been behind. And Christmas trees are probably just our summary, I guess, of what we're behind as far as city programs and stuff. So we mostly just wanted to come and introduce ourselves and make sure you knew that we were here, and we appreciate you guys and your business a lot. And if you have questions for us, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys, our biggest thing is if you don't have a complaint, that's a good day at the city here at City Hall. So we usually don't have very many complaints. So I appreciate you guys doing what they do. I know Councilman Brennan. I totally brain farted and forgot to ask you about. We have the concrete trash receptacles, and there's a little circle in there. We were wondering if you guys would like to help out with the logo inside.
Oh, yes.
Because remember we pulled all the trash cans from Main Street. We're getting ready to pull them from 2nd Street, and we utilized a brand new black trash can.
Yeah.
All the older ones, we were wondering if that would be something that Republic would like to team up with the city on.
Yes, I think we talked about that a long time ago.
We did, yeah.
Yes, yeah. The answer is still yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
I kind of forgot about that. I probably should have followed up a while ago.
I forgot until Councilman Brennan brought it up 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
It still has our old logo on it. Time to update.
Yeah, we had talked about that. I forgot. So yes, definitely. And if you guys have questions for us, we're happy to answer them. I mean, trash is like you guys. If it doesn't, we don't hear anything, that's good. So.
Did I hear a rumor that you guys bought the old, what's his name out there, the landfill?
Idaho Waste Services?
Yes.
No. So that's been like for 15 years we've been wanting to. Yeah. No. The answer is no. So he found, we did have an agreement. We had an assignment even with the county to take over the contract, and we did have an agreement, but like within probably 24 to 36 hours of closing, there was another person who had an agreement with them as well that came forward. So we did not know it. So they are set to close, I think, this week or next. Yeah, this end of this week. I think they're supposed to close on that transaction. So, so I think, yeah.
I was really hoping you guys get it. You guys are a very professional, very well
thank you.
company.
Yeah, we were hoping to. So we have things that we have to race from the base to get out there by 3:30 when they close. There are things synergies that would be really helpful if we were the owners, definitely. But I'll let you know if it ever works out.
Councilman Brennan.
Could we talk real briefly more in depth about the recycling part?
Sure.
Because you mentioned the Chinese markets and the costs are off, but are we truly recycling now? Like when the blue cans get empty, where does that material go to?
That's a good question, Councilman Brennan. Yes, everything is being recycled. We had to go through that shift where we only take number one and two plastic bottles and jugs instead of plastics 1 through 7. Everything is taken from here to Western Recycling where it's sorted. And the cardboard stays domestic, and the plastics are going to Canada, or there are new places that are starting that are scrubbing and pelletizing the plastics for reuse. It's almost all staying domestic at this point. So it is all being recycled, but we have to just subsidize it. But we are seeing old like paper mills that were closed for years reopen, and now they're taking the paper again too. So we're seeing our self-reliance come back, where it's just like the microchip industry and stuff that we really let that go, and we only had Micron really making the chips. Like we've just given a lot of that away over the years, and now we're seeing us bring those industries back. So it is all being recycled. None of it, unless it's contaminated, is being landfilled, and we don't, but once they sort through your recycling, like it's under 10% that gets landfilled, and that's just because people recycle the wrong stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really important to us that it's all recycled. Yeah.
So that gets picked through by hand?
Well, it's sort of like Willy Wonka's like chocolate factory. So it gets dumped on the material. It's called a MRF, a materials recycling facility, and it goes through up a conveyor belt, and then it's a series of like screen sorters and optical sorters and some hand sorting and some magnets, and everything gets kind of pushed in a different bunker, and then those materials are baled by which bunker they're in. So the mixed paper's in one, and then cardboard only is in one, and then the plastic bottles and jugs, and then tin cans and aluminum cans. So those are all separated out, and then they're baled. But they're probably, I bet 14 people on the line, don't you think? 14 people hand sorting. And some of it is mechanized, but a lot of it is by hand still. Yeah.
Okay. This $3,000 to $4,000 number here is the offset between.
And that's between, that's what we pay to have that recycled, like your materials. So they're saying we can guarantee that all this will be recycled, but here's what you're going to have to pay to have it shipped to these markets. And that's just because we're, and it's probably fine. I mean, we're a more expensive country to do business in. So we have different requirements that, frankly, when we were sending stuff to Asia and to like India and Vietnam and places like that, it was cheaper and probably the work conditions were not as great. So is my guess. So I think that it's probably, they're good, they're domestic jobs and they're, they come with U.S. requirements. And so I think that we're starting to see that number was higher initially. And I think that subsidy is getting to be lower and lower. So we're hoping that we eventually see it flip and that it actually becomes, profitable. That'd be really nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Stokes?
Rochelle, thanks. I love seeing companies that are involved in the community. So I thank you for all that good work.
Wow.
I had one quick question. I was wondering if you had any programs or accommodations for elderly or disabled citizens. So the ones that have trouble taking their can from the edge of their house to the driveway.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Councilman Stokes. Yes, we do, and as a matter of fact, it's free. So if they call, I think they can call your office or they can call our office, and if they let us know that they have some sort of physical challenge, then we do that for free. So it's just a carry out service form, and the only thing we ask is that if they have like animals, if we go through gates, that they just restrain the animals or keep them back. So.
Or they just call me to dump it in another recycling bin for them, and then I call Rochelle and said, hey, they're not picking it up.
Hopefully, if you have a specific case, feel free to email us. But we do try to get everybody on carry-out service if they need it, especially like during the winter time and stuff. That's a big deal. Yeah,
That's great.
sure.
Nope, I'd just like to thank you yourself for coming.
All right, well, thanks for having us. So, anyway, if you have anything else you need, just let us know. So, thanks, you guys.
Wait. Paula, did you have something?
Oh, Paula has something?
I don't want to put her on the spot. So we're starting a new community program, Fresh Friday Farmers Market, and we want to know if you'd like to be a sponsor to that.
Yeah. It's just like, it's funny how over the years we've gone from like different things we've morphed, and it was Christmas trees, and last year was just, I think, extension cords, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is the same. It's a community market, but we are offering the EBT machine through USDA. So they could come in and they would get tokens, and then they could go. So if you were a vendor, you wouldn't necessarily have to take any type of credit card machine. That you would come back. You just have to do fresh produce.
Oh, I like. Is it just gonna be over here at like the Old Paul's Market?
El Rancho. So
Okay.
one more over.
Okay, one more over.
Yeah. And then it's through recreation, so I can have Tiff contact you.
Yeah. It's through recreation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she wants to just reach out. That sounds good. So. Well, look at that.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
I
maybe
think
we're
that
shop.
she's back
So
there.
we're just looking for sponsors to do. It's called Double Up Food Bucks. So you would double. You'd be the sponsor that paid, and they would get a free token to help pay for the food.
How much are the tokens?
$1, but
$1?
the sponsorship's $100.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not in
I thought it was like
amount.
Vegas. I'm sure that's
Exactly.
no, that sounds like a great idea. When did you start that, or is it starting?
We're starting it in mid-July. It's taken
Okay.
us kind of a year, kind of a kickoff program. We had to get our machine. There was a lot of things that we had to get in place first. So
I
we're
like
getting a
that.
manager, and we're going to offer it to the community. We have people coming from the community asking for it. So we're like, we'll see if we can do it. If it's successful, good on us.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
think it'll be great. Yeah, and anything that brings people together downtown and that
Mhm.
sense of community, I think, is a real plus.
Yeah.
So
I think the greatest thing is if someone wants fresh produce and they can only afford this much and they get the double up day, they get more
Yeah.
fresh produce for their children or for their home or whatnot. So
mhm. And we saw the real need for that. Like in Nampa, we helped sponsor, it was a grocery shuttle, and it took people from North Nampa, where the Old Paul's Market was that closed. And those guys were buying food from like the convenience, like the 7-Eleven, you know, because the closest grocery store was too far away, and they ran a shuttle to a couple different grocery stores, and the people just loaded up on fresh stuff because they didn't have access to it. So I bet you'll be really impressed with. It was kind of heartbreaking to think of people not having access, but it's out there for sure. So I think you'll be impressed with how many people.
I think we're pretty excited. So
yeah. Oh yeah. So yes, definitely she can reach out. That's great. I didn't know she was behind the corner.
Right. Thanks, Rochelle.
Yes, thank you
Appreciate
guys. All right. Have a good night. Thanks
You
for having
too.
me.
thank you.
All righty, we'll run down to item number 4, council comments. We'll go with a quick department head rundown. That way we can get you out of here really quick. So I'll start with Chief Moore.
Mayor, Council, the fire department is alive and well. This Thursday we'll start our first full member training for the first time since this has started. We've been doing some online training in the meantime, but we are going to have a control training where we control groups. BLM training is going to be kind of a neat one this year. They're going to be doing bringing the sandbox up, so we'll just work in control groups and go through different scenarios and stuff. It's a great learning experience, particularly for people that are just picking up on the incident command system and working through that. The following week we'll be doing our pack tests and things, so we'll be spaced out doing that and getting that all ready for our summer stuff. The repeater and the reprogramming venture up at Rattlesnake Butte is underway tomorrow. They anticipate getting up there and getting the electrical service underway, starting with getting that taken care of. And short after that, when we get our generator and stuff, we get sustained power up there. The hope is that we can get our frequency changed before we get into the height of fires over the summer. We're still currently in it's not a burn ban, but through DEQ, they're requesting people not to do any open burning. That hasn't changed at all. For the most part, since it's not a ban, people will call and they'll do burn permits, but we always ask, and dispatch asks as well, that they're cognizant of their neighbors and things like that, because it's more for the respiratory than anything else out there is what they're trying to control. It's going to be interesting to see generally towards the end of June. It's hard to believe with winter the last couple of days, but generally towards the end of June, before the 4th of July timeframe, we'll go into a burn ban. So I don't know how long our burn season is going to last this year, depending on weather and how that works. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. That should be it, unless you have any questions for me.
William?
So we're just kind of been working the whole entire inside the building has been painted during this downtime. So staff have been crazy busy with that, trying to determine what our programming will look like over the next 6 months. The summer reading program is going to be drastically different this year, with no programming in-house. Outside of that, we're working on our LED project that the council funded last year, or this current year, and then we're working on a carpeting project that'll be coming up in the next few months to replace the carpet from that levee. So other than that, we've just been crazy busy trying to get everything figured out. So we'll be open back up more to the public starting next Monday as well.
Chief?
We're excited. We got we're in possession of 5 brand new Durangos for the supervisors, so we're kind of working through that. We're excited to get those rolling. So we're wrapping up through loose ends on those. Working with Outline on some networking issues, trying to get them straight to all the license plates and driver's license again. Fundamental flaws in that, so they're actually getting right to the root of the problem and kind of redesigning that so that it won't be so problematic in the future. Other than that, we're doing well.
Hey, Tiffany. You guys just want to file in a line and rock and roll? Come on in, just sit right there and what's been cracking at Parks and Rec?
Here I have a list I'm organizing. So the pool's open. We opened it last Monday. We've been offering swim lessons out of it. Everything's running smoothly. So she's a 60-year-old champion. We had a couple private pool parties this last weekend, and we'll continue. We're hoping to open public swimming the 29th, and maybe sooner. Adventure camp, we're into week 2. Everything's going great. You've probably seen, Councilman Bundy saw him. We have our kids walking over to Mighty Munchkins. They're all staying locally. We're not traveling them outside of the area. So that's cool to see them out and about. Our participant numbers are climbing, which is great to see. We've been offering some free programming. You guys probably saw we're doing foot golf, disc golf, and some different stuff in the evenings for people to do. And we have to offer a traveling playground every day within the parks. We're just still running, track shoes on, so being creative. That's what we got.
All right. Thanks, Miguel?
It's great grass or weather for grass, keeping us super busy. This week, our biggest thing is Free Fish Day, Saturday. So we're going to work with Glenn and clean up the pond. And just want to thank Glenn McNally for helping us with that event.
Are you going to grab another flow, what'd you call a flow fan? Or was it a new, or was it
a circulator?
Yeah.
Yeah, we put that in on Friday.
Okay.
So we'll probably end up getting another one. They work real good. It helps with the algae and the treatment. So it's working out.
Anything wrong?
Miguel, what ages is that free fishing?
We did put all ages, but it's driven for the kids.
Okay.
Brad's going to be down there.
It's 10 to 2 this Saturday.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Anybody next? Jake? Gene?
We are working on our normal summer stuff. We got sweepers running as much as possible, doing some road repairs. Some of those days we're doing 2 truckloads a day. We were hitting jacks and caught up on some stuff. And we put new ped lights up by Taco John's. You guys may have seen them. The little poles were some extra poles that we had. We stuck them up so that people wouldn't trip on the bolts. We're still waiting on those short poles and all the electronics to come. They're supposed to show up in July. So some kind of hang up on that. But other than that, just work as normal, keeping the holes filled and take care of complaints as they come in as quick as possible.
Anything for Gene, guys?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I was curious about the road paint the city uses. Is it of equal quality to like the state?
It's on
paint?
there. Yeah, it's the same deal.
I just noticed our seems to fade super fast, and I don't know if it's because people are like crossing over it more. But
Depends on what you're looking at. Yeah, I actually think ours stays longer. So concrete streets don't hold it very good. So and crosswalks. The crosswalks were you're driving right across it, and a lot of times the paint's on there. It's just dirty roads and stuff. They pack the dirt across top and the light gets covered up. But ours really does last longer. If you look at some of the side streets and everything, they look like they were just painted this spring.
the double yellow line by that you just painted
Yeah.
behind Taco John's is like almost entirely faded
Yeah,
out.
that was 1 year's worth of painting. So they just put on one coat for the paint. So
Okay.
it takes a few years for that stuff to gather
I
out.
see. Okay.
Mayor,
I
don't know if it was streets or parks, but I'd like to thank them for trimming the trees over here next to the museum that were hanging over the cars and whatnot and out in the street. I don't know which one did it.
I think it was 5
Ivan.
parks. I think
It was
you
Ivan.
may help them.
Ivan with Parks.
Oh, okay.
Ivan.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Who's next? Who's there?
Dave.
Dave, come on down.
Wells are doing fine. 6 is down, 13's back up. Everything's going good there. Valve actuation's going good, things like that. It's working a little bit. Other than that, we're just plugging along.
Skata. That's what I was going to bring it up.
Yeah. We're working on it. It's got a lot of bugs in it. So, working on it, we'll get it.
Okay. Anything for Dave? Okay.
Thanks.
Who's
Shirley's in there.
Jake?
somewhere.
Shirley? Okay, Jake.
Courtney's in the back.
Richard's in there.
Don't have a whole lot, just working hard, maintaining the course. So grass is growing, like Miguel said. That's about all I got. So told these guys I was going to keep it short.
So when we put that new sprinkling timing system in, are we saving the water that we projected we'd save?
Yes. Good. We're the most I haven't watered in, well, obviously because of rain, but the most I've only watered. So with the system, it's usually around 800 gallons, when it's hot. And I think the highest I put down is 600.
500 so far this year.
We had some warm days there back then.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
and so, and then I just wanted to tell Brad also that my wildflowers, they're starting to bloom. So
Cool. I got more in the office, okay?
I bought a bunch from Simplot.
Oh, yeah.
Just come check them out.
Cool.
Doing good.
Oh, how's your beehives doing?
They're doing really well. So we got 4 out there now, and I mean, one of them's got four shelves on it. There's 4 out there. 3 of them are doing good. One's kind of struggling a little bit.
Cool.
So they're yeah, should be quite a bit of honey this year. Looking forward to it. Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.
Hornets yet?
Hey, Shirley.
My turn.
Yep.
We finished up the first harvest on the farm. Levels in the lagoons are a little bit lower than last year. Other than that, we're just mowing and Cameron and cleaning.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Hank? Oh, there.
Issuing lots of permits. People are, it's warming up. People are getting out there doing stuff, so it's a good deal. CVH is kind of stalled out right now with new streets. That should be, looks like they're moving pretty quick now to get those put in. So Hubble's still cranking them out though. So usual.
All right, anything for Hank? All right. Thank you. Hey, Court.
We did our downtown public outreach last week. We did it via Zoom. So we have a recording of it, and we're going to be sharing it on our newsletter and on social media and the website. Our rail assessment was just complete. So we're going to go over that with the mayor and the company this week. We'll send it out to you guys as well. Give us a condition of everything and the costs for various options to fix it. And we're starting to get a little bit of interest from customers that we're kind of poking around. They're starting to look again. And then Mr. Weeks is going to put it on LoopNet, so hopefully we'll start getting more leads that way. The development at City View is going to close on one of the parcels, so we should hopefully start seeing something there in the next 60 days, hopefully earlier, like 30 to 40. We have a new business, Family Fun Zone, and the brewery is getting ready to go. He closed on his property, so we're really excited about that. And then my last day is going to be June 26th. My replacement starts on June 22nd, and so we'll have the week of overlap, and I'll be around the end of the month. Any questions?
Thanks, Bernie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich is there.
All right, Rich, come on down.
So what do they all say? So I can
Ditto.
Ditto. See, I'm sure Dave talked about water. That I think the big thing. I think that water was, we pumped more water. I think everybody was home. I think, and plus it was a warmer. I think it was a warmer May than it has been too. So that's kind of one thing that was a big difference there. Airport. So we're gonna start they came out today to start with the airport stuff. So then construction starts. I think they're gonna start closing off the airport, the runway tomorrow, and then they'll start the rehabilitation, getting all the runways. Well, they're going to do the runway first, so they can get it back opened up and then do the taxiways and then the aprons. So that's kind of where we are from that. So really big things kind of going on. So besides there's a couple things on here that we'll talk about when I come back here in a little bit, but for the downtown and stuff. But other than that, so unless you guys have something for me, I did give you a couple of pictures. That the one picture is that the new right in, right out, the one on the bottom from Walmart. I think, I don't know, did you guys talk about that? No. Did you want to talk about that? You had a question about it, so
we're going to talk about it.
People hear about it, so
yeah, we'll talk later.
Carl,
it really wasn't on there, so if we want to talk about it,
you want to talk about it now, Carl? We can talk about it now.
We can, because I'm going to bring it up in a minute if you don't.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you done? Like
that was the big thing, and then I'll come back in for the downtown project.
Okay.
Anthony here, so answer questions too. So
okay, thanks. All right.
Carl Vaughn with the Idaho Department of Transportation, stationed here on Mountain Home.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I wanted to set the book straight on Facebook that the city is not the ones that put the divider in up there at Walmart. I don't want to throw the ITD under the bus. That's why I was glad to see Carl was here so he could talk about it.
I was requested.
Oh, you were requested. Oh, okay. Nope. That's. I just wanted to set the record straight that it was ITD in the state that put that divider in, and there was a lot of forethought that did go into it, because I do know, and anybody can correct me if I've got my times wrong,
But I believe that the city and ITD sent certified letters, and they've been trying to deal with Walmart corporate for over a year and a half now.
And
with,
Kmart.
And Kmart, right. With no results. So something had to be done.
Anything else?
We didn't do it.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stokes?
The only thing I've seen is truckers flipping U's. I've seen 3 times personally. And
Yes.
I don't know if we need a sign there.
So we won't put a sign in the, that is not a raised median. It is a raised curb. There's not enough room to put a metal no U-turn sign there. And it wasn't designed to not have a U-turn there. The City View is wide enough, and we are now wide enough to allow a U-turn there. The 18-wheelers that are trying to make it obviously can't make it with a 53-foot trailer, but they're trying. You got to understand they're using a GPS to turn them back to the freeway as fast as they can, because it's mileage for them under their GPS driving period every day. They can only go so many miles a day. So they're trying to cut down how far they're driving. So you got to understand the whole picture. The people in Mountain Home have asked for higher wages for themselves, more places to eat, and more opportunities. When you have growth, you have more traffic. When more traffic triggers more safety on the road. So ITD's motto is safety first, then your mobility, then your economic opportunity. In that order is how we run. So when you're coming out of Walmart and Upper and you are trying to make a left and someone else is trying to make a left into City View, that would be a head-on. That is why it's that way. Once that triggered, that traffic that's forecasted to go into that new City View is 3 times what it is at the Walmart exit at the upper end. That's what triggered that to be put in there that way. It's by forecasting what you said the businesses are and how many properties you have, and that type of business you're allowing to put in City View.
Mayor, excuse me. Now, if Walmart will come talk to us and ITD and they move that entrance, can we get those barriers removed then?
You would have an entrance exactly straight across from City View.
From City View. Then we can get those removed and then they can go back to turn with the light there.
That's right. The entrances, the upper and lower would go away. You have a main entrance right there across from City View. It'd be a signalized intersection. We forecasted that out in 2034, something like that. We forecasted it way out because remember the roundabout, which has been talked about, will be at 8th Street. We won't have signals and signal. We'll have a roundabout and then the signal to keep the traffic flowing, because that's the objective is the mobility.
Right.
We got to keep the traffic moving.
Councilman Bundy.
So that's why we tried to reach out to him, or you tried to reach out to him for the past year and a half, is to come up with
it would have been cheaper for Walmart and Kmart, all the players, to do it now when we were doing City View.
Correct.
Than to do it piece by piece. It just gets so much more expensive when you're talking traffic control, everything else. It just adds up. It would have been cheaper for all parties to do it one time than to piecemeal this together.
And now that they see it and come back to us, there might be some things we can do. But this is why you guys tried to get hold of it for the past.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I know Courtney has reached out. We actually had a lead from the corporate guy when we went down to ICSC last year. He said, nope, I'm your guy. We reached out to him. Courtney talked to him on the phone, reached out, and then crickets. I know Erica Bowen from ITD sent certified mail, right?
Yes.
I know Courtney's reached out to the manager here and corporate. Who else reached out to him? I mean, I think you tried to reach out.
We've reached out even to the local managers over a year ago.
Yep.
You know, that this is what was coming. You better let them know, because they aren't responding back to us. And a lot of times big corporations, that's a small piece in their big pie. Right. They don't really care. What other store are you going to go to? You going to go to Target here in town? Oh, no. So it isn't not going to affect their business. If you want to go there, they're going to get there. It's just the people. It's going to be inconvenience to the city when they start using 18th Street. The truckers are going to go down to 18th, make a right, go back down to 8th, and make a right and come out on 8th. We watched it today. There was 5 of them lined up trying to get across there. So that's not us. You know.
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
On that also, it's been about HDR they did that access study. I think it was HDR.
Yes.
About 4 years ago, and that's kind of where all that got triggered. I mean, it was going to be, a median all the way up, so it was going to be a right in and right out for everybody going up that.
From the original design was from 18th Street all the way to 8th with the raised median. I live here. I've been fighting that battle. Sometimes I have to pick my battles, and this one, I settled with, because I put them at a left turn lane coming out now. So if you come out of the lower one, you have a left turn bay, your own exit bay to come out on. Well, that wasn't there before, till we just painted that here in the last couple weeks.
Well, and correct me, Rich, you were there when we were fighting to make sure that we didn't do the right in, right outs. We were trying to fight for the traffic circle up at 8th Street, and ITD has worked with us and said, yes, if you do that, that'll quell the right in, right outs for McDonald's and McDonald's, Wendy's, Pioneer,
And I think that
all of 8th Street.
And I believe that, Council, I believe that survey was sent to everybody also, all the players up there. So I think they've all seen it also. So they knew something was coming.
Is the ITD still looking up on the other side of the interstate where Pilot is and Chevron about putting a median in there too?
Yes, that's going to be in 4 phases. As we're talking right now, it's going to be in a 4-phase change that's going up there.
Unless they get on board and start dealing with it.
We're going to try to do it in pieces, so it's less inconvenient for the major buildings like Pilot Corporation. They want to do some building changes there, but we need to do something sooner than later. You know, if you haven't been up there, Brennan, it's crazy on Friday and Saturday night.
It's nuts.
And it's backing up on the freeway, and I got to stop that.
Okay, so it is still coming up there too. So just so everybody knows about that.
Courtney's been with me. All those businesses have all been involved, and we have some preliminary designs that we will release here pretty soon on what we think should happen to the businesses. Some of their approaches will have to change. Shared approaches will come into play. They want to keep them. No different than what we've been doing on American Legion. Just because you have an access now doesn't mean you'll have it in the future. It might be shared.
Right.
We got to limit the right turns in and out.
We in on this? You're
I was
good.
just listening in case you needed anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Council Brennan.
Carl, when you say a 4-phase plan, what's the timeline on 4 phases?
I don't know.
Years?
It's usually 2 years at a time. So the city has some development stuff going on there on your Chickarella. We want to address like the storm drain issue that we have going on there. It's open. So everything is open coming down to Pioneer. It all drains to the Pioneer Federal Credit Union property, and then into those ponds behind it, and then into Walmart. That storm drain from the upper end goes nowhere, just through a little catch basin, and it overloads continuously. The more businesses you put up there, the more parking you put in there, the more water we get down here. We got to get, so the designs, the water on their property needs to stay on their property. Otherwise, you run into the same problem as Beals. Beals' property on their roof, your force seers put all the roof water into the city. That's what's causing your flooding downtown.
Okay.
Runoff water doesn't happen a lot in the desert, but when it does, you know what happens. So we got to move that storm water.
And I guess for the record, we had talked, there's a benefit to Walmart to coming to the table, right, with some pad sites?
Yes, in front of them. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk on that real quick?
So the property that Walmart would be giving up would be allocated to turn back to them as pad sites. So below the gas station there, once that's closed, that's a good sized piece of property, like 450 feet by 30 or 380 feet. That's a pad. And then the one above them where the exit is now could also be another pad. You'd enter it through Walmart's main entrance, but those could be pad sites off of them that they could sell or lease.
Sure. Okay.
Pioneer Federal Credit Union has one too on the back side of them. That there's also a pad behind them.
Yeah, but you guys will make us use 8th Street.
They have to use 8th Street. Sorry, they have to use, the access off that is off 8th Street.
Right. So. I got to get my dig in on it. No, okay. Does anybody else have anything else for Carl?
I just want to thank you for coming, Carl. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl. I appreciate it. All right. All right. Any other department heads have anything? If not, you guys are good. You guys can head on out.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question to William real quick?
You bet.
William, you mentioned the summer reading program is going to be entirely different. Did I hear you right? You said there's not going to be any of that face-to-face?
There will be a limited amount, like when we're checking out books and giving out prizes and grab bags and stuff. But a lot of the programming and stuff will end up being virtual to people. There are some presenters and stuff that provide specific summer reading programming.
I know that program grows every year for you, and we don't know what the restrictions on the COVID situation is going to be, but you and your trustees don't see any way of getting groups of kids together to continue that program, but maybe less students or less kids at a time?
Yeah, the program is still going to continue. It's just going to be kind of a different phase for everybody. And it's all the libraries across the state. You know, even on our consortium, we have a meeting on Thursday to kind of discuss how everybody's looking at summer reading. And there's some that are looking at not even doing in-person programming until next summer sometime. Just because of restrictions and because we're so close to each other with our youth and our seniors that are in the building. We don't want to be that carrier for everybody. But it is something we are looking at. You know, if we can limit it to maybe just, 10 people at a time or registrations and stuff, that's something we're definitely looking at. We don't want to just go, no, we're not doing this at all. We want to look at the options to make sure everybody is safe and still provide that opportunity. So our biggest goal is getting people to read during the summer so they don't have that summer slide. And with school being online the last 3 months, our role in that is more important than ever at this point. So.
And I don't know the access of the notepads that the students have. I forget the name of them. Chromebooks. But they had to turn those in over the summer, unfortunately. So I feel like that could have been a benefit to help get them the access for the programming.
And we have 8 of them on site, Chromebooks specifically, along with our computer lab. So there is opportunity that we can facilitate some of that in-house, spread out kind of thing.
All right, appreciate it.
All righty. Anything else, Council? Yeah. Anything for any of the department heads? Okay. All right, we'll run down to item number. Well, I'm sorry. I guess Council, you have any comments? I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy.
Just got a quick one. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but it's a little bit kind of off the record here, but on the record too. We have our proprietor for the new Blue Pit Brewing on 2nd Street sitting over here. We're going to handle that today. I just think it's great. We've got some economic growth going, so thank you very much. I think it's going to be a nice addition there on 2nd. I think it's going to coincide real well with our downtown development, give you some more outside space. So I just wanted to, I'm sure we all are grateful that you're investing in this and you're making us some more economic benefits and some things for people to do. So thank you for doing that. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brown.
There's a question for you. I wasn't able to attend. Was the Mashburn boring project completed with the hired resources?
Yep, all completed. Got them a check today.
Okay.
Yep, they were good. They had given the Katz and Kyle a lot of good knowledge. A lot of different techniques and a lot of when it comes to the mixing of the bentonite. Use more on this kind of a glitchy ground or less on this kind of ground, but it was a wealth of knowledge for them. Great. Yeah, it's all done.
Sorry, that section won't be able to be done till Wednesday after this bill runs done.
Okay. Sorry, Wednesday. Yeah, it's all done. I think the only thing that we have to do now is just I think one of the commissioners, one of them wanted us just go throw a bag of concrete in the little 3-inch hole, or at least the 8-inch hole that we started reaming back out, and then we lost the reamer in there. Just fill that one in, even though it's filled.
You want to make sure it's plugged.
Yeah,
it's already plugged.
Yeah, and bentonite. But we'll go and throw a couple bags of cement in there, and just to make sure it's capped.
So. Thank you.
Yep.
One last thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if it means as much coming from me working in law enforcement, but to our city officers, I really wanted to say thanks for their service, especially in this time of turmoil around the country. I don't think Mountain Home has had anything real nasty at all, but the time could come, but they're out there serving and putting their life on the line every day. So thanks to our city officers.
Thank you.
Definitely.
You're out there. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Stokes.
I've been watching the coronavirus numbers. We're at 32 right now. So we went up 1. I wanted to give a thank you to Josh Dyson, who called me Saturday about a leak at the new skate park that the mayor took care of. Thank you, Mayor. The skate park's looking awesome, by the way. And then I wanted to congratulate our city on Pollinator Appreciation Week proclamation that was signed this morning. And then lastly, the band shell that we approved. I reached out to the local Lions Club and then the Arts Council, and they'll probably donate some time and labor.
All righty. We'll run down to item number 5, the consent agenda, Councilman. I think Nina wanted me to talk about, or have Jeff, if you have any questions for Jeff, he's here. We brought him here to, if you guys want to ask me a question.
When you I already asked him a question. When do you open it?
Shoot for this fall. Okay. Thank you. And is there anything else on the consent agenda that you'd like to talk about? Poll,
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan?
I have a few. Going back to our discussion in budget hearings about item F, the electronic signs for the city.
Mm-hmm.
Did we solidify 2 locations for sure that we want? Do we have the ability to put these at?
I'm working, actually, I contacted United Metals, and then I also contacted Pioneer, reached out to them to see if they'd be willing to long-term lease it or give us the ground or what it costs if they wanted us to buy it. We have I had United Metals president reach out to me, and he stated that because we couldn't find any agreements or anything for the entranceway sign over up of Barker Madsen. What was it used to be?
It used to be Barker Madsen.
Yeah.
On Airbase Road.
It's been there for decades, they said. So I said, is this something that we could upgrade or put a new sign there? And he seemed pretty amenable. He had to get with the owners. And then I reached out to Kirk Perry, president, CEO of Pioneer, and he's asking the board if that's something that they would allow us to do too.
Okay.
So we're working hand in hand to get that done for you.
And I think I've stayed out of it, but in terms of the clarity of the board, what was decided for that in terms of being able to read it up close and being able to read it far back with the digital displays?
Yeah, we went with the pixels. Like, I don't have it with me, but I can get you all that information. But our pixels were a lot more, let's just say they were better. They were more clarity. You could read it close and far compared to the other sign quotes that we got. I don't have that info. I know we have it, and it's in my office, and I'll get it to you. But it's way better than what we were quoted.
Okay. Finally, the last thing on this item, and if I have to pull it, I'm willing to. I'd like to avoid it if possible, but I would personally like to approve that contingent upon signed contracts or lease for the ground that it's on.
For sure.
I don't want this.
Yeah.
Do we need to pull it for that, or can we just agree as a?
I won't. I gotta go to ITD.
Yeah.
Those are permitted under Justin Pond outdoor advertising, and permit number should tell you who the property owner is of that, or if it's on a long-term lease. It could already be on a 99-year lease.
Well, it was a handshake back in the day.
Did you check with Justin Pond?
I didn't, but I can call him. But it's been there before you guys made us. Before you made anyone.
Because they're all GPS in where they're at, and they're all permitted. It falls under outdoor advertising.
I'll ask.
What are we talking about?
Well, and I already talked to Carl about the locations of the sign. We cannot have an off-premise sign unless we own the land or we lease the ground for.
Correct.
So that's why we have to get either or. We either need to own it or lease it forever, or not forever, but for a while. So before we do anything, we'll make sure we get that done.
Okay. So I don't need to pull that. We're in agreement that.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I ask Carl a question?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Carl, that is good. Then you do not have to own the land. You can, a lease agreement is good for an off-premise sign then.
There is, a lease agreement. Justin Pond can go through that with you. If it's city advertisement, you can do that. Businesses aren't allowed to do that. They have to go through a third-party corporation like Yesco or that to lease a billboard. The cities have a little bit of leeway.
Okay.
So you have talked about if you're going to lease it out as advertising, that's a whole new ball game with that, being able to lease that off. You can advertise city things like Parks and Rec, anything that has to do with the city. If you try to lease it out to like Blue Pit or whatever, sorry, I don't remember. That's totally different. Now you have somebody else trying to lease from you.
Well, I don't think we're gonna, we would maybe rent a space advertising space but not lease it.
I don't know how that works.
Okay.
That'd be the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Made up motto. Okay. Well, yeah, Council, we'll definitely make sure we get everything taken care of before.
But I think we can all agree it's got to be leased.
Yeah.
Putting on the
I
property.
just, to make Councilman Brennan feel that all that paperwork, even the lease paperwork and everything will have to come back for approval for the council, for you to be able to sign
Before
it.
we would send the letter. Okay. And then you had another one, Councilman? Another letter?
That was it on F. On item G, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes, sir.
Again, this was talked about in the budget, and if I have to pull it, I will, but I think if we could come to an agreement that I'd prefer not to send that check out for payment until our September 14th council meeting or after, so that, because it's coming out of contingency,
yep.
I want to make sure that money is available for a true emergency until the end of the fiscal year.
Mr. Mayor, that wasn't coming out of contingency. It was coming out of Railroad Park budget line.
Right.
There's $75,000 there.
To the money there.
So
I
it's
thought it was
not
coming out of
for
contingency.
no,
We asked specifically the auditor if we were allowed to do that.
because it's budgeted in Railroad Park payment down here in our lines already. And it's levied into the general fund. So it wasn't out of contingency.
But for multiple years of payments.
Well, we have.
Do we have enough to pay it off and then?
Right, yeah, you have in that line, so it was Railroad Park and Rail Spur. So you had $95,000 there, so you weren't gonna spend all that on the Rail Spur this year. So the question was, could we use that balance to pay for Railroad
Right.
Park?
But you specifically called the auditor to make sure we could use the contingency.
Because it's budgeted in Railroad Park.
Right.
Into general fund.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan.
On that same topic, Courtney's going to bring us figures for fixing the railroad spur. Is that in the same budget line? Do we need to?
You also have in your budget for the rail spur, there's some URA money. So if you needed to spend that again on the rail spur, you could. So you have a lot there too.
Kind of lost me there. Bottom line, like it's available anywhere,
available.
But we don't have to touch contingency.
No.
For the $40,000
Right,
payment.
you would have to touch contingency at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, okay, yeah. Councilman Lundy.
I make a motion we pass the consent agenda as posted.
Second. Councilman Brennan.
I wasn't quite done. Could I pull item I, please? I was going down.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay.
We have to pull that motion.
You want to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion and pull item I.
Second. The motion and second, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes. Aye. All right. Item number 6. If you guys don't have to stay, if you don't want to, you guys can all head out. Everything looks good, other than people that need to talk. But if you want to stay, we'd love to have you. If not, then that's good too. Don't want to keep you here. Old business discussion decision on city continue to offer hazardous waste day collection and proposal received from the Stericycle Environment Solution. Friday at about 10 o'clock or 9:15. Nina and Paula and I went to the commissioners, talked to them about maybe a possible partnership, and they said that we didn't have to, that they take all the hazardous waste. And then I had Tiffany follow up. Tiffany. And then the commissioners did say that like they'll take the hazardous waste, and then that Brad at U of I Extension will take all the pesticides.
Mr. Mayor, that's definitely not correct. ISDA does do a pesticide disposal program, so that's ISDA, not U of I Extension.
Okay. So then we told the commissioners, they told us, no, don't waste the money. And so then I talked to Deb Ireland that was there, who's in charge of the landfill, and got her number. And then Tiffany reached out to her for me to clarify what they can take for hazardous waste. And I'll let you go.
So I called Deb. One, we filter probably between us and City Hall. We deal with phone call a day probably from a citizen. So a lot of the questions, and I just try to ask them to Deb specific. I asked Deb to send everything to me in an email. She told me that she was not going to do that. It was all going to be verbal at this time. And I was like, it was fine with me. So I'm going to clear it all back through with email. So anyways, they'll take paint. Their big emphasis is they like to educate the citizen on how to dispose of the material safely. And I think that's all of our missions is to do that, right? So they would take paint. I asked fertilizer, 2,4-D, Roundup, pesticides, herbicides. She said yes, they would take all those as long as they had their original labels on them. I asked on motor oil. She said that they go to O'Reilly. They would refer them to O'Reilly's and AutoZone. Is that the other one? So that was there. I asked about gasoline and antifreeze. They would take them. She did say they like to use a substance called Floor Dry to mix within those materials to make them soluble, so then they can be disposed of. She threw that out there to me. They take bleach, they take batteries, car, ATV, household as well. Was specifically asked. I asked about fluorescent light bulbs. And she said, yes, they would take household quantities of fluorescent light bulbs. So we kind of looked at that. I was in the middle before I came here of drafting an email back to her just to clarify everything so that I could get it to, obviously, City Hall and my department so we can give the information correctly to the citizens on what they can and can't do with their materials.
And we're still going to do a hazard waste day with
USC Ecology. Yeah, we, right, I think after we kind of started throwing the idea around, Liz Schwager reached out from USC Ecology, and we set a date of September 17th for us to host it within the Parks and Rec department with USC Ecology's partnership at no cost for us at that time. So, and USC Ecology does want to continue that relationship. But if things happen and they can't make it work, then we just deal with that when it's free. We just can't complain.
Does this out at the Elmore County landfill, does this cost whoever's taking it anything to give them a battery or anything like that?
No, Deb.
Car vehicle?
No, and I think like their push was, and like in some instances, I get it. You're probably a 70-year-old lady driving out there and you got a fluorescent light bulb and you want to recycle it. They don't want to send her back to town to figure out the way to do it. So they're taking it and going to dispose of it the right way it should be done. So is my assumption on how they're doing it. No fees. Tires will cost you, however.
$3
and $4.
Yeah, with a rim or without a rim, and $4 with a rim.
Yeah.
Which I think that's fairly inexpensive because tires are.
I don't think I would abuse the system and take in all of somebody's fluorescent light bulbs and go drive them out there and do that. But who knows?
No, but if they're taking it though, that's a big difference.
Yep.
Right. So I'll clarify with Deb through email, and I'll get it to Nina and the mayor.
And
we'll go from there.
And then we'll put it on our water bills that this is what the county landfill takes.
Yeah, I think the website is a great location too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
So
thank you.
With that one, is just let it go, and then we'll run down to item number 7. Items removed from consent agenda. Item I was pulled. Councilman Brennan.
Let me pull that paperwork. Excuse me just a second. Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
What I noticed on the grant application request is that it shows a $0 city cash match. And then as I read the project summary, I'm slightly confused because it does say a 50% from $100 million state allocation and the 50% match from the City of Mountain Home CARES Act allocation, which in turn covers 100% of the project. Am I understanding that right? So the CARES Act money, we've kind of had several discussions about, and it's supposed to be for reimbursement of expenses. Is that right?
What was it? Payroll, COVID, like the barriers,
cleaning supplies,
cleaning
stuff like that.
supplies.
Oh,
Gloves, sanitizer, that kind of thing.
what was the total that the city was allocated?
497.5, I believe.
Okay. And so with all the hazard duty pay that was paid out, have we allocated all that and we have 350 left over from all the bills the city spent?
We should have.
At least.
As of right now, like I don't have everything yet, but as of right now, we have $136,000 to ask for reimbursement on, which includes the payroll and all the COVID stuff that has been turned into me so far. We will have a little more because our counter, we're going to do a permanent glass counter out there permanently. So that's going to be in there. And there might be a couple of other, people that throw in COVID stuff that they're still purchasing, like hand sanitizer, stuff like that for their offices.
Okay. So right now that's 361 roughly of leftover.
Yeah.
Money. Okay, and that can't be used for any other projects or fees or anything. It can't be used for the water bill rates or late fees, right?
No, for sure. Any lost revenue, we checked on, because we lost revenue for the recreation classes and we lost revenue on the late fees. So we checked on that. So any lost revenue was a no.
Okay. And so through those channels, whoever it is that decides, it's been totally approved to use it towards a grant match.
And that was coming from Director Keeley. Courtney was on that call with us. We talked to Director Keeley of the Commerce Director. He was stating that we could use those funds for COVID-related, obviously, broadband. It's for getting broadband into rural cities. 100 million. It's an application we put in for it. We either get it, we don't get it. But he did state that we could use our CARES money for that project.
And does that have anything to do with COVID, or that's just an exception to the rule?
Yes, it still has to be tied into telemedicine, education, telework. You just have to show that that's what it's going towards.
And so we'd show like that the citizens now have that ability?
Well, we're putting in the backbone and we're going to tie it into like hospitals and clinics along the way or places where we do education. So the Montessori schools or the schools, things like that. We still have to figure out exactly what that looks like on this end. I know these guys are working on it. But yeah, you still have to tie it into the CARES Act. But I think by and large, they're looking at it relatively broadly as, as long as it makes sense. And because it's a municipality, connecting our services so that we have good EMS services and things like that.
Well, working from home. There's a lot of people that now is working from home, going to school from home. So they just are trying to get more broadband into rural.
And this is the same thing. When you say the backbone, we're not going to individually connect a business or a house or
not yet. No, this is the backbone. Get everything back to the fiber hub.
Okay.
This will accelerate our plan.
Yep.
There were options to do that, but it has to all be completed by December 31st. So you have to make sure that whatever scope you're working on, you can actually finish in time. So getting it to the houses would be too complicated, and I think that they would require a partnership with a private company for that. So that takes time to negotiate too.
What we're trying to do is we're working with our subject matter experts, Jeff Christensen, Robert Peterson, and what can we utilize this for to get it done by December 31st? It needs to all be in the, whatever we do, it's got to be checks written, everything done by December 31st. Okay. Thank you. Yep.
Anybody else?
Does anybody else have any other questions on that? And once we know more, once they open up that grant application, I'll definitely send that to you guys and let you look. And we did kind of like a rough map. We just ballparked it with our experts that said they were thinking, okay, it's probably going to be 3 to 4 miles we're going to get out of it. And that's having a third-party company come in and do all that backbone for you guys. So we were trying to get the backbone up to the water tanks. So we'll take it from Richard Aguirre, go down 3rd Street. There happens to be a school right there, which is great in the future. Get it down to a well that's right by Legacy Park, and then keep going up, getting up to the water tanks, and then possibly if we have enough, well, that's only about a mile and a half, mile 0.77. We're hoping to get it from the corner all the way down 5th Street, all the way out to the lagoons, but we're only about right where, what is your street, the first turning left to that subdivision? Lago. That's about as far as it goes. So then eventually we'll go in and finish that going. Actually, we'll have to go into Lago because we have an easement to go down that road to get to lagoons. We have an easement all the way from Silverstone. Is that area? Silverstone, and then we have an easement that goes all the way out to the lagoon. So we can just go right down there.
Also, another benefit of this is if we can get the grant and that CARES money, this is $700,000 we're going to have to spend anyways over the next year or two. So this will free up some budget money for other city projects or services or things that we can do too. So it's
what we'd like to
good
do,
questions, I think, but it's going to really help us out in the future if we can get this.
It just expedites it for us. What we'd like to do too is definitely we're going to work with some other hopefully Icon, maybe Pioneer, to help us do the LID for the citizens. If we can keep everything local, that would be nice, and it keeps the local bank in the mix too.
So are we gonna hire another company for this? Okay, so we'll have 2 boring rigs going.
Hopefully
at the same time.
In a perfect world, right, of going different directions.
All right.
But yeah, cool. But when we go out for that scope of work, they'll know that it's got to be done. No matter what you do, it's got to be done by December.
Thanks,
Mr. Mayor. That was kind of my question too. This one, if approved, won't use our boring rig or our personnel.
Nope. Okay. Nope. So they'll continue to, is that well 6 right by Taco John's, and then go up 5th all the way to 13 that we just put in, or that we redid up by Optimist, and then come back, go down to the well at 10 at the airport. But we'll be going past the animal shelter as well.
Okay.
So good tie-in. I think 5th Street's a big one. Now that the trees are starting to bloom, we're going to see how well our frenzel zone works with
it's French.
point system with the animal shelter and Parks and Rec. Okay. But we got to go through some trees, so hopefully it doesn't hit too bad.
No science stuff there.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman.
Are there any other questions? Everybody clear on those? Okay. I'd like to make a motion. Approve grant application approval request for grant number 2019/2020-017 for an Idaho broadband project, CARES Act grant funds through the state of Idaho to complete the installation of the city fiber optic backbone, and authorize the grant administrator to apply for the grant.
Second. And I want you guys to know we might get it, we might not though.
Correct.
So I just want you guys to be aware of that. Been motion second, I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman Kane.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Run down to discussion decision on the guaranteed max price agreement with GUHO for phase 2 of the downtown project, and authorize the mayor to sign. So Anthony and Courtney and Rich, come on down. So Anthony, you can have right there.
Hot seat.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, good to see you again. Good job on the first phase. You killed it. You knocked it out of the park. There's only one hiccup, and it was purple bricks, but I digress. I had the same conversation with another company, skate park. So uniformity. With that, council and Anthony and Courtney and Rich, I'll suspend the rules for this one and let you guys just fire away at them, okay?
Mayor and Council, I think probably, if you look at the consent doc, probably the most important, page 7, is probably the most important part that Chief is really, to look at, and that's the GMP there. That GUHO is guaranteeing that they can do all of the stormwater and moving the water lines and putting new sidewalk in and all the bells and whistles we want in there for that price. And we do have it in our budget. We're going to save the $500,000 that we have for the block grant, and use it in phase 3. And then, so that's kind of where we are.
So our budgeting projections are pretty close to what is given, correct?
Yeah, the first, correct, they are. Yes. Actually, it actually dropped from what they gave us last week. So when I got this, it was a good surprise because it was pretty close to what I was trying to budget the first time. So
yeah, perfect. So
we were trying to budget.
Budget set. When's our projected construction time?
I'll give it to Anthony. Pass that on.
So we'll get started here in the next couple of weeks with some preliminary work, relocating some utilities, doing that. The majority of the work will start after the 4th of July, and then we're scheduled to be wrapped up October timeframe. So we'll start on Jackson Street, get the new storm water infrastructure on Jackson, then turn up 2nd and work our way down towards 5th. And then as soon as the storm drain lines in, similar to phase 1, the sidewalk work will follow and go block to block. And
the last time we had the pre-construction meeting, the public outreach, we did it at on Main Street there. Do we get this positive of feedback from the Zoom meeting, do you think, as we did from those in-person meetings? Or how do we feel about our Zoom public outreach meeting?
No, everybody would prefer to do it in
Correct.
like the normal situation, you know.
So we feel like we got the word out.
Yeah, I feel like we got the word out. We had 40 people that had signed up, and then in the end, I think maybe 20 of them actually showed up for the Zoom. But the beauty of it is that it's recorded. So it's, we're working on getting it uploaded to the city website, to the social media, and it'll go out in our newsletter. So then we can share it. If people have questions, they can watch it. And then we'll create an FAQ. We're working on that right now too, and send it out as well. So all the questions that were asked, we can have listed so that people can look.
And I also I spoke with you today. There's been some questions that have come up over the past few months about this. So in your frequently asked questions, you're addressing all the questions that we know of, and people can still send you questions, I'm assuming. And
yeah,
okay,
that's
perfect. Thank you.
Let the record reflect that I'm going to leave really quick to go grab a note. I needed to ask some questions, so you guys can keep going. No, it's all good.
Council, on this one thing, since the October timeframe kind of is our ending one, we probably will have some, well, we'll have some cash carryover that we'll save from this budget. We'll go into the next budget to update with that. So we've already planned that in the budget. So.
And Paul's looked at this.
Okay, let's reflect Mayor Pat.
I believe so, yes.
Anthony, I was impressed with phase 1. I'm really excited to see phase 2 and 3 go forward. So keep doing what you're doing.
Will do. Nina, as Paul looked at this.
It was in the packet.
And then Councilman McCain, we actually gave her the one that was higher, so this is lower than what we were expecting.
Paul.
The attorney.
Brennan sitting in his chair. I'm sure it's fine. It's the same one that we did the last time.
It's exactly the same one,
so,
just a different number.
Yeah.
Just a different number.
All right.
Hey, really quick, guys. The coal chute, the elevator, the Idaho Hotel, you know how they have their glass basement or the glass that goes over. Is that something that we could possibly, I don't know. These are questions that I think the 15th we'll have to ask you guys as well. And then if so, is there a cost differential to just stick a, glass like they do at the Idaho Hotel or what? Can we, you know what I mean, Anthony? Is that something that's going to really affect, because where those purple blocks are, that's their only light that they have down there is what they were telling me. And they'd like to do something like the Idaho Hotel where it's you can still look down and see it. I don't know. These are questions. And then the the elevator. Did we already discuss that?
The elevator shaft. Well, so I have sent all the documents to the building owner, and so he called me back, and I think we were talking about it. He's going to be here on the 15th and wants to ask some questions and kind of talk about it. So it's kind of where we are, and forgot about that. So.
Okay.
To mention these, so that's probably the first time these guys have heard that because I had them. So
right.
And he called me on the phone and we were talking. So.
And I forgot to ask you those days that we were talking about the CNXU. So.
The glass would be tough because ITD is going to require that to be traffic rated, and so I don't think you're going to be able to get a glass to meet meet that rating. But we've done like grading on top of window wells before. But yeah, we can explore different options
and still stay within the beautiful budget.
And I think those are some conversations that we can have with him and say, you know, hey, you know, we got this design, so we're doing it for you. Because that was one question he has, you know. So I thought that the sidewalk was mine. I go, well, you know, it is, but we're doing this to clean things up, and that's why we took the cost to get the engineering done for it. And he knew, you know, I mean, I talked to him the first time. I said, well, this is how I'm going to get it engineered, and you know, those were some of his wish list things. But that's one of those, you know, this was what the engineers came up with to try to do. So I think that's just a conversation we have to have with him, and you know, and work around that.
Okay, those were I totally forgot to ask those the other day, and then I wanted to talk. Okay. Councilman, you got anything else for Anthony or Rich or Courtney?
Mayor,
Councilman Bundy.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the guaranteed maximum price agreement with Duho for phase 2 of the downtown project and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
And Anthony, I think, did say he's going to cut his payroll down a little bit to get that back to the city, right, Anthony?
I'm not sure about that one.
It's been motion and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan. Aye. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
All righty.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, guys.
And
Thanks for the work.
Mayor didn't have much
Keep
with this
going.
one, but thank you, council. That's
All right. Run down to item number 8, ordinances amending section 1F or 7F-1, removing Parks and Rec director as an appointed position and adding community development director.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan.
Did you just, I guess, redact or get rid of Parks and Rec because it's 2 separate departments at this point? Okay.
Parks and Rec director. We have supervisors. So we just cleaning up the ordinance.
Okay. We have a rec superintendent, a park superintendent. We don't have a director any longer. So because I had to add community development director to the ordinance, I was just taking that one out at the same time.
Sounds good.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bundy.
Make a motion that we suspend the 3 reading rule and read this ordinance by title only for its one and only reading tonight.
Second. The motion and seconded. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes. Aye. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
And please read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Mountain Home, Idaho, amending Section 1, Chapter 7F, Title 1 of the Mountain Home City Code, eliminating the Parks and Recreation Director as the city position appointed by the mayor, and adding a Community Development Director position to be appointed by the mayor, and providing an effective date.
Councilman, you've heard this ordinance read. Do you wish it to pass? Councilman Stokes? Aye. Councilman Bundy? Aye. Councilman Brennan? Aye. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Run down to item number 9, budget presentation, civic groups. We'll have domestic violence. Come on up. Hi, Kim. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor Sykes and Council, for having us here again before you this year. My finance manager was not able to come due to the COVID, so I did just want to present this if it's appropriate to hand those out. That's just showing what our match will be for the upcoming fiscal year and the amount that we were awarded. We did receive our grant again this year, and it'll show you what we received last year, what our match was, and then our new grant cycle that'll start up July 1. So since our last city budget request, we've helped 87 women in our community, 3 men and 126 children. Since the shelter opened in November, we've housed 9 women and 7 children. Now, if you will, once again, our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30. So I'd like to give a quarterly breakdown of what our crisis calls looked like this last year. So in our first quarter, from July to September, we had 28 calls. In our second quarter, from October to December, we had 67 calls. This was more than 2 times the amount of the previous quarter. Now in 2020, from January to March, our calls have increased exponentially to 154 calls in our third quarter. This is a 550% increase compared to our first quarter, and we project that the numbers are going to continue to rise. So over the years, we've relied on our city and county for monetary support, along with our fundraising efforts to help us meet our 20% match. We are concerned as to what our community will be able to donate this year due to the COVID-19. It is also yet to be determined whether or not we will be able to hold our annual Harvest for Hope fundraiser, which in years past brought in a substantial amount of our federal grant match requirement. We are also concerned that our community is not going to be able to donate the way that they did. Our businesses and individuals have endured much during the COVID-19. We have decided to start preparing to shift our fundraising efforts to a more social media based fundraising. But again, in the diverse community that we live in, we still feel that it's going to show a significant decrease, especially from our elderly community support. So with that, lastly, I would just like to add that we are not a civic group. We are, the Elmore County Domestic Violence Council and the Evans Harmony House is more of a public service. We work very closely with our law enforcement, our prosecuting attorney's office, to ensure that victims have the services available. And according to an email that I received today from the Idaho Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Abuse, so I just want to look back that in 2018, intimate partner violence fatalities in the state of Idaho were at 15. In 2019, that number decreased to 6. And now, 6 months into 2020, we've had 2 intimate partner fatalities. As an advocate, I would like to believe that although we are seeing an increase in domestic violence reports, we are also seeing a decrease in fatalities due to the increase of services like ours. Therefore, we are again asking for $10,000, which is less than 8% of our required match. Thank you.
Hey, Kim, really quick, you guys are not for profit?
We are.
Did you guys go up for the governor's grant?
We did not because, no, we did not because we were able to meet all of our needs through this fiscal year. So now after July 1st, I would be willing to apply for that grant, but prior to, I just didn't feel it was ethical.
Okay.
So.
And then the COVID grant as well, instead of the loan, you could do a grant. Did you guys go for that one too?
We did
the
not.
Federal one?
No, we did not go for the loan. Again, we did very well with our budget this fiscal year, and we couldn't justify applying for that.
Mr. Councilman Stokes?
Kim, I was just curious, how much does the county pitch in for your organization?
Last year we asked for 10,000 as here, and we received the 10.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan?
Thanks for coming out here. During the COVID, main portion of COVID crisis, was the shelter open or closed?
We were closed for about 3 weeks. We couldn't get our hands on enough of the PPE, and therefore we had to close.
Okay. There was one instance where I attempted to refer an individual because of the real world event, and upon my call, they said they were just going to put them up in a hotel. Is that standard practice?
It is standard, especially if they come in after hours. Okay. We do have children, other women and children in our shelter. We screen very well prior to bringing them in. So if somebody calls, we will put them up in the hotel. We will put them up in an alternate location for the night and then meet with them first thing in the morning. We'll assess their situation, and if they're appropriate, we'll bring them in.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman, anything else? Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kim. Have a good one. Run down to the visitor center. Hey, Denise, how you doing?
I'm Denise Baresi with Mountain Home Chamber of Commerce Travel and Tourism Committee. We oversee the operation of the Visitor Center, and I'm just here today to ask for your continued support of $5,000 in operating the Visitor Center. We were closed from, I believe, March 18th to the 1st of June. Lost about $5,000 in revenue, so we have some, oh yeah, you don't need that. So we have some headway to make up from being closed. We thought it's best to close a little bit earlier than everyone else just because of our volunteers being seniors and didn't want to put them into any compromising positions. So, you know, we thought hard and long and wanted to reopen and spent the month of May getting the center ready to open back up to the public. Took us a while to get a hold of some of the PPE products and put a shield up at the cash register, move the shelves around, making sure that there's spacing for anybody that comes in. So we feel that it's very necessary to be open and operating because everyone is going to be traveling locally and not doing big, long trips. So just to make sure that we have a lot of information available, good information for people to stop by and pick up. So Nancy put together a report that just kind of outlines that we were closed and our volunteer hours, how many visitors we had. We're still working with community service, taking some opportunities with people that can volunteer through that. And we're still doing the welcome packets, the MAC baskets, going through, and we have all the maps, brochures, hunting regulations available for anybody that might come in. We're still doing the Trinity's website, which is a very popular website for anybody who does any snowmobiling. Promotes the Anderson Ranch area, gives them a good map from the Forest Service. That's very user-friendly for them. We try to make sure that we've got good, solid information out there for people who go out to recreate, so they're not trespassing, that they're staying within the regulations and the laws and so forth. The center needs, our windows are still in bad shape. They're 20 years old, 28 years old. Can't see out of them, so we'll need to probably look at doing something with that fairly soon. And then the gazebo is in need of some work, which Nancy has also addressed that, Miguel. So, but anyway, we would appreciate your support. And any questions or anything?
Mr. Mayor, I guess, didn't we talk about the gazebo last year? Did Parks, were they able to put in any time out there to help?
You know, I don't think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Miguel came to me this week and asked if he had money in the budget for the visitor center to paint the gazebo. I don't know if that was the only repairs that it needed.
No, I think there's a railing there.
Railing, yeah.
Yeah, pretty.
Well, I can talk to him about it tomorrow and see what happens.
Your report says the handrail is compromised and unsafe, and the whole structure needs paint.
Correct.
Okay.
So that might be part of his repairs. Maybe when he paints, he's going to fix the handrail. I don't know. I didn't ask him. He specifically just asked how much money was in the line, and I told him. Okay. He was also going to have somebody look at the windows to see if they could be, like a professional could get them clean. I don't know. He said it would be a lot to repair it.
Great service, thank
you. Any interest? No.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Council, any final comments really quick? Hearing none, we'll run into item 11.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes.
I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session pursuant to 74-206, subsection 1B, personnel matters.
Second.
The motion is second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Good morning. Sorry, Councilman. Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
All right. Hey, Dale.
How you doing today?
Good.